This episode is brought to you by our friends at Bubba Coos Burritos.
Bubba Coos, the place for the family. Go get a great meal, chill, kick it. Always Bubba Coos, place to go to.
Real show, here we go. Real show, here we go. You know that it's gotta be that time, so this is what we chant. What keeps on getting them all amped in advance? Come on. You and I rocking out with Iron Man, F.E. You get the general's point of view on top of Roger's rants. Whenever tapping out, we're putting the most minutes in. You already know what that's about, you know that winners win. Crush whatever's on task, check the podcast. It's the champ and the tramp, let the bomb blast.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to a new episode of Champ and the Tramp. I have my good friend Charlie Brenneman, multiple-time UFC vet, former Lockhaven wrestler. That's where we first met back in college days. Trained alongside each other many, many years. AMA, Knicks, even at wrestling tournaments. We'd go in the wrestling room and spar and stuff. Back in the day when he was coaching ESU, I was coaching at Rutgers. Yeah. We were at the EI, right? EIWA or something. We're like, fucking hey, I'm like, hey, let's spar some around. I brought our gear. We're sparring in the wrestling room over there. It's good stuff. But now let's see. Now you podcast, you wrote a book, correct?
Yeah, I actually wrote 2 books. It's funny, real quick before we jump into that, going back to what you were talking about. I have a memory. I think you were involved, if not you, definitely Clarion. But we were at a tournament back when I was at Lockhaven, you were at Clarion. And I remember Wright, Jeremy Wright.
Yeah.
I feel like I just remember sitting in a hotel room. You were there. We were talking, kind of knowing each other, kind of not.
Yeah.
And then post college, you started doing this thing. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. And I thought, maybe I'll do that thing, right?
Yeah.
And then that kind of set it all in motion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've written 2 books, and I talked to you a little bit about a podcast and the kind of the mystery behind podcasting and how to grow and the ups and downs.
Tough, man. It's tough.
Books is very much that way, man. It is like, I've heard they're basically a business card, and then you talk to people and say, that can be your livelihood. It's really tough, but when I look at them, they're self-published, but it's just fun. It's neat. Yeah. It's a thing to have.
It's an accomplishment, and it's probably it's hard. It's hard to do. I don't think I could do that. I mean, I would maybe with like someone helping me write it, but putting your thoughts down to that's got to be quite an accomplishment when you finish writing a book.
It is, and it's funny because the first one's kind of like, so I come from a pretty small town in Pennsylvania, and there were just a lot of questions. I don't know what you got, and Roger, with your experience, the questions you get from back home, but I just thought, all right, I'll write this for people back home because there's a lot of questions that hurt, how much money to make, to meet Dana White, et cetera, et cetera. And I just put together a little book. I think it's a great one. Spent the second one so much time, so much effort. My partner with podcasting, Dredd, he helped me so much, man. And if we would get like return for the minutes that we put in, it would be negative because we thought it was awesome, but it didn't take. And
isn't that crazy?
It's very crazy.
I saw some quote you talked about podcasting, and it kind of made sense. I think I sent it to you. You said it's very much feast or famine. Like there's no, and it's so true. It's
Roger doesn't remember that I actually read your quote and spoke to him about it, and then he just sent it to me today.
I know I sent it to you, but I don't remember. Anyway, it's I sent it to you and Andrew, but it's very true. I mean, just you think you do it long enough. I think we thought you show up every week, which we do. We never miss a week, and it's going to be, it's going to build, it's going to grow, it's going to be, it's going to be an amazing thing. But it's a very slow build sometimes. You know what I mean? It really is.
I talked to a lot of people. I even bought, a course. I paid a couple $100 for a course, how to grow a podcast, and I think it was like 8 things to grow your podcast. And after every kind of module, I was like, check, all right, doing that, check. Okay, I'm not growing my podcast. Why is this?
Right.
And it it is what it is. And you hear numbers, right? Like you hear numbers, millions, hundreds of millions. It's like, where are those people?
I know.
Exactly.
Like, how is that happening?
I mean, I guess it's hard to compare because when Rogan got into podcasting, nobody was doing it.
Correct, yeah.
But it literally took him, I think, 6 years to make money. So the fact that he did it for 6 fucking years is pretty admirable.
What was the number? Somebody Robert Frank gave us a little insight, but I think there's 800,000 podcasts in the United States.
No, I think more. It's more.
That was like a year ago or so, right?
United States.
United States, yeah.
U.S. or worldwide.
And that was about a year ago. I think we heard that number. So I'm sure.
You know this though. What you will appreciate this. only 10% of the world speaks English.
Yeah.
You think about that. And think how many people listen to fucking Rogan's podcast. Yeah. He doesn't have that dub. You know Mr. Beast?
Yeah.
I heard him on Rogan's podcast, but he dubs every video in every different language.
Wait, weren't you a Spanish teacher?
I was.
Yeah. That's why.
You just figured out the Matrix. Start doing your podcast in Spanish, bro.
I've done a couple in Spanish.
Have you really?
Just for fun, I had a Raleigh Peterkin who wrestled at Penn. He travels the world, has some awesome stories. But we did one in Spanish. He speaks Spanish as well. And then I had a series where it was Speak Spanish with Spaniard, and I would do like these lessons stuff. It never took. It was, I don't know, 5 years ago. But it kind of goes with Rogan's kind of motto, but I just love doing it. Like I do 2 episodes a week. I read a new book every week. I give the highlights. I have guests. You were on the past, so it's just fun. And if nothing else, it's keeping me entertained.
That's exactly how we look at it.
Yeah,
exactly.
I get to sit in front of a mic and talk, which is good for the future, for anything I'd get into. Hang out with my buddy, have a couple drinks, bust his balls. It's always fun. And honestly, we met some good guests that turned into. We were in a fucking movie because of a podcast guest. Yeah. We ended up doing the Wim Hof stuff, from a podcast guest. So all in all, it's not very lucrative, but in experiences it is.
Yeah. And one of my so I have some random guests, right? And you reach out and who knows if someone's going to respond or not. And some like crazy guests, meaning like awesome guests, will respond. One of my favorite memories is, so I read a book called The Inside Scoop. It's about Ben and Jerry's, and it's written by their first CEO. And it's an older book. I don't know if it has 100 reviews, but it's not like a super popular book, but I read it. And this guy's name is Chico Lager, and I wanted to have him on my show. He's the CEO that was with Ben and Jerry from the ground up, and I couldn't find any information online. And I did some legwork and ended up writing him a handwritten letter, mailed it to, I don't even know if I mailed it to his house or like the community something or other, and eventually got to him. He responded, came on the show, and I have his number, and I would consider him an acquaintance. It was just, it was awesome.
Cool.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, you really never know what you're gonna get out of this. I mean.
Yeah, I would say that I'm an opinionated guy, politically, morally, religiously. I'm pretty opinionated, but some people have sat on that couch that have very opposite opinions of me, and it is, if nothing else, it has opened my eyes to a different perspective. Maybe, and I didn't necessarily agree, but I heard what they had to say, and I thought things a little differently than I did before. So.
I try to think like where I'd be, and like I said, I don't know if I've read, let's say, 200 books for the podcast and interviewed 200 people. Let's just say that. I try to wonder where I'd be at without that. Right. Like what kind of person would I be? How would I think? What kind of dad would I be?
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy to think of what you would do without.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's and it's so new still, if you think about it. A lot of people, I've been in the podcast for quite a while now. I'd say like listening to them and obviously doing this, but I bet you there's still so many people that don't do this yet.
Yeah.
Don't listen to podcasts.
You mentioned Mr. Beast, so I speak in schools a lot, and I share my story of Spanish teacher to UFC fighter and the lessons there. And like kids are dealing with a lot of stress, anxiety, emotional, kind of not knowing where to go, dealing with different things coming at them. And, I'll mention Mr. Beast or I'll mention Jake Paul because these kids think that they're just going to do that, right? And they don't. And I like convey the message that I remember 8-9 years ago learning of Jake Paul and Logan Paul. And, when you listen to Mr. Beast on Rogan, it's like, man.
That dude was online, he would say for like what? 12 hours, 18 hours a day or something, just on a group call with all these creative people.
He's a strategy guy, right? Like he's strategically figured out numbers and like.
But it took fucking years.
Right,
like literally, he was
right.
on a group on a Zoom call with 5 other guys every day for like 16 hours a day.
That's
just
crazy.
Doing different algorithms and testing different things, finding out which videos pop here, which background, which text, everything.
That's a guy that wanted it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? He wanted it bad and he made it happen.
It kind of reminds me of like old time fight guys.
Yeah.
Or old NFL guys, who way back when they started, there was no money in it or there was very little opportunity and they were just doing it because they loved to do it. Mm-hmm. The people now that you see are super successful, you realize the backstory to it. And especially for kids, it's so important for them to understand. Like
nothing's overnight.
Right. Nothing at all.
Absolutely nothing. Which I don't mind, man. If we're down here 10 years from now, pal, and this still was never taken off or whatever you want to call it, and we're just still. I'm happy to do it, man. I'm enjoying myself down here. So, question for you, Charlie.
Yeah.
I met you way back in the day, about the time Jersey Shore was kind of taking off, I guess. 2010, maybe 2011. That was kind of like when you were UFC days, right, up and coming. And I met you through Gianni. And Gianni's like, yo, my buddy Charlie's fighting, you know. So I became a fan because I was like, I felt like I knew you, you know. And then I got to actually meet you. I think you were at Gianni's house, if I remember. So I always thought you were a North Jersey guy. I guess I always thought that. You're not, though, right?
No, I was kind of I guess, a periodic import for a while.
What is the connection there, then?
Yeah, James Laval is the connection.
Okay. Oh, wrestling. Yeah. Okay, yep.
So
James Laval went to Lockheed.
Yes, okay.
I'm originally from between Philly and Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Rural Pennsylvania.
Hollidaysburg.
Yeah, and I used to train up the mountain. Chris Ligori and Frankie cornered me, I think, a couple times in PA. But it was I know when I come to North Jersey, it's kind of culture shock for me because I'm from, you know, kind of rural Pennsylvania.
Sure.
And so I wrestled at Lock Haven. I met James, and we became, you know, really good friends. And then I started fighting. I went to East Stroudsburg. I used to be a Spanish teacher for 3 years. I left there, got a GA at East Stroudsburg University. And I had met James. I started fighting. Jim and Dan Miller, who, you know, Jim's still fighting in the UFC.
Oh, amazing dude.
Yeah, they were training about 50 minutes east, I guess, in Jersey. And then, you know, James and his friend Jackie, who's like a family friend. You probably met Jackie.
Yep.
They're like, why don't you just move over here? Why don't you just, like, you can stay with me for a couple $100 a month? And that's what I did. And so I would commute back and forth, but I would stay here, you know, and that's when actually before that is when I started training with you and Eddie. But that was my kind of birth of life in New Jersey.
I gotcha. All right, well, that explains that.
He thought with the curly hair, he's like, the curly hair, he's got it from Jersey.
I literally thought you were a North Jersey guy.
No.
So you were training at AMA?
Yeah, so
AMA,
when I first started in Pennsylvania, you know, this was back in, I taught from 04 to 07, so this is like 06. I saw you sign, what year did you sign to the UFC?
07.
So literally I was teaching Spanish in between classes, got online, saw that you signed to the UFC, and then I was like, maybe I'll do that, because I didn't want to be teaching. I missed wrestling. I missed like the discipline and everything that went with it. And then I saw him sign. I was like, well, I know that guy. You know, like I'm kind of like him. Maybe I can do that. And then that kind of, you know, flipped something in my mind. Started training locally, and there was not a lot there at that time. And I linked up with a great group of guys for a little while, and then I thought I want to take this to the next level. And then got my G at East Stroudsburg, and then little by little started training. At that time, I was training early on with, I think I started training with Eddie Alvarez, I think before you, because he did a clinic in PA, like randomly at the gym I was at. And then I started training with him off and on, and then reconnected with Frankie, and those two and Chris, like really, you know, really got me started early. I would travel. I was telling him when I come east and I cross over into that PA Jersey, I get nervous, like when I get beat up, because for the longest time I would just drive and they would kick my ass, and then I'd be like, and drive home and then drive back.
Oh, dude, that was the one time.
You want to tell it?
Oh my God.
Let's hear it.
We're in like a gym. It's like a holiday too, right? It was a holiday. It was like I don't know what that was. Memorial Day.
It was Memorial Day weekend. Yeah.
Memorial Day weekend. So I think it was on Monday, and we're in a gym that's closed. No coaches were there. It was just us three. Someone let us use their gym. Was it Kevin?
Yep.
Mulhall. It's Kevin. He's the referee. It's me, him, and Chris Ligori all training, just rotating rounds. Chris, they're sparring. Chris throws a head kick. Boom. Charlie's like, oh. And I'm like, what happened? I didn't know what happened. I'm like, you know, dude, his toe poked him in the eye. Bro, I was fucked. I mean, they laugh about it now because he's obviously fine. It was so scary, bro. Because he looked up. I'm like, you know, I'm trying to be calm. Hey, I'm like, all right, let me see it. He looked up, and his eye was like, whoop, right there. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, Chris, you fucking knocked his eye out, bro.
My God.
And I guess the eyeball sits like this, and then there behind it, there's a bone.
Your right? Orbital.
You're like, yeah, it sits in the pocket, you know. And I guess that got pushed in.
He shattered my eye socket, and it went black, so I couldn't see anything, right? And I screamed because it hurts.
Yeah,
unbelievably, it hurt right away. And I it was so hot, man. It was like 100 degrees.
Yeah.
We're in Perth Amboy. Yeah. It was like 100 degrees. I fell to my knees, threw my gloves off, and it was black. Like I see him out of my right eye, and my left eye was black. And I remember I threw my gloves off, and I was reaching my hand to my eyeball because I thought he kicked my eye out of my head.
Yeah,
and I saw blood squirting because it cut my eye, my brow. I remember I touched my eye and I was like, oh, thank my eye's in here. And then I thought, well, I can't see at all. It was completely black. And then maybe after about 5 minutes or so, it came back and it was blurry. And then we went to, I don't know, whatever hospital nearby.
Robert Wood, maybe? I don't know. No, I don't even know what hospital is there.
Perth Amboy? Geez, I don't know.
Yeah.
I ended up going to Rutgers
Staten
University.
Island,
Yeah, okay, yeah. Robert Wood probably been there.
But man, it was terrible, and I got so nauseous and thrown up. It was just terrible, man.
Yeah,
I had to get surgery, and
like all in all, it worked out, but bro, that was fucking scary, bro. Because his eye was like, I didn't expect that to happen. I'm like, fuck, everyone gets hit in the eye, and it was like, you're just like, literally, his eye was like the other way. I'm like, oh my god, dude.
Did you have that? You actually had that reaction?
Yeah, I'm like, I like walked away. I was like, whoa. I was like, holy shit.
Man.
and the pain, like, I don't know, it hurt so bad. And I remember I went to the hospital or I don't even think it was a hospital, but I don't know which one it was. And I remember they gave me a hit of morphine. And I remember it was so hot there. And then I went into the emergency room and I was laying in the bed for, it was at least an hour and a half, shivering now because I'm soaking wet and then I'm in air conditioning. I'm freezing cold. And I remember they gave me morphine for the pain. And I remember it just feeling like going through my veins and then immediately vomiting. Like I just felt it go and then and threw up everywhere.
Really?
And like I couldn't do no pressure because my eye was broken.
Yeah.
But it was terrible, man.
How long was that recovery for that?
You know, surprisingly, it wasn't that long.
Yeah.
So that was in May. I was supposed to fight that next Friday. I didn't fight, and then I fought John Howard in September.
Okay.
And I want to say it was like 7 weeks when the doctor at super cool guy. Like I met him a couple times after the surgery and everything. I ate with him at a deli here in Jersey somewhere at Rosewood. I could have fought like 7-8 weeks after.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it healed up pretty quick, but they put like 2 little mesh plates in, and it's a little bit worse vision than my right eye, but
really,
for the most part, it's back to normal.
Fucking Chris, bro.
Fucking loser, Chris. Ruining families everywhere.
It was scary, man.
I can't imagine, bro. It reminds me of that saying, the Dana saying, so you think you want to be a fighter? I mean, people have no idea what you guys actually go through. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a freak accident too, you know? You don't, I mean, how many people get head kicked and they fucking don't think about it? Yo, toe.
Bro, what are you talking about? You got a chunk of your ear kicked off.
I know, but I'm saying that's.
You ever hear that story? Jim Miller
Yeah.
kicked him in his fucking ear and a piece of his ear went flying
early on. Yeah,
but I'm saying it. You know, I can still hear. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I feel like he pulled it. You know, it was just everything right. Or like we were wearing pads.
Yeah,
I don't know if I probably wasn't wearing headgear, but we weren't going super hard. You guys were pretty generous.
Yeah,
and it just happened.
Yeah, no shit happens in this game, man. That's for sure. But hey, you got a crazy story about it. I guess, you know?
I write about it in my first book, but it gets pretty in detail about it. But you know, whatever it is, what it is, and you know the sentiment, Roger, what you just shared. Yeah, I mean it didn't deter me at all. You know, I think I just knew it was really weird too with fighting because I was and I am a really passive, like kind of quiet, fearful type of person generally. Like I don't want to piss anyone off, whatever. But I just I saw you sign. I was like, man, I was so bored with what I was doing, and I thought I know I can learn that. Like I know how to wrestle and I can learn how to fight. So it was weird because normally I don't know. I just hesitate with stuff or maybe I hadn't stepped outside the box at that point in my life.
Yeah.
Up to that point, and then I just did and kind of felt like no, it's definitely what I wanted to do. So trying to get back on the horse as soon as possible.
Well, that's awesome. That's a great example for when you go and do these talks. Like you're on the fence, like I'm gonna try this, and you didn't just try it. You got it. You made it done. You got it done. So
yeah,
you fought some big name guys, bro. I mean, you came on the scene at welterweight, right? 170.
Yeah.
Yeah. You fought Johnny Hendricks.
I fought Rumble
Johnson,
yeah,
bro. I mean, you didn't just fight cans of corn in there. You were up against some stiff competition, bro. You definitely were tested.
It was weird too because I did better at 70. Like I was a pretty small 70 pounder, definitely not a big 70 pounder, but I did better at 70 than I did at 55, and I don't know why, you know, but it just how it happened.
Was that a tough cut for you?
No, neither really were.
Really?
You know, when I fought at 70, I would. I don't know. Fight night, I'd weigh 76, 77.
Yeah,
you know, Rumble and Hendricks, I'm sure were up over 200 on fight night.
Absolutely.
But, you know, I felt comfortable there. And then when I got released and I was trying to come back, pretty much from, you know, Joe Silva's mouth to my manager to mine, it was, you got to come back at 55 or it's going to be really hard to get you back.
Right.
And, you know, so I just, from wrestling, wrestling instills like so much discipline, and it's just not normal. Like even more so than fighting, I think, because wrestling is constant.
Yeah.
Like it's constant discipline, constant making weight, constant work, constant suck, basically.
Is it still the same now? Because football is definitely not what it used to be. I mean, is wrestling?
What do you mean?
still
What
the
do you
same?
mean? How's football not what it used to be? What do you mean?
I mean, if you watch old school football, the hits they used to take compared to what
Are you
is
saying
illegal
rougher?
now.
Like rough, it's
Rougher.
It's not as wrestling's still the same.
Still the
It's
same.
roughness. It doesn't. It didn't get softer. If that was your thing.
Right.
Technique's definitely different from you know back in the day.
Right.
But football,
Not more rules and regulations.
no. But even
than-
football, like football is so much faster, so much more athletic now. But
Correct.
a little bit
More
different because of the
rules.
rules.
Yeah, right.
And I think that you and I, Frankie and I, were talking earlier. You know, the kids are getting better so much younger now with wrestling, and probably with anything really.
Everything, yeah. The internet. You got to give
Yeah.
like in wrestling. It's Flow Wrestling is making kids my kids all over Flow, looking at stuff, checking stuff out, trying shit. They got foreigners. Andrew's in the building. What's up, Eric? What's up, man?
buddy boy?
It's Charlie here.
Hi, Andrew.
What's up, man? Nice
How are
to
you?
meet
But yeah, that just these kids get so many looks. We didn't have that at all.
Dude, and all the it is crazy. And so when I left teaching and started fighting, I just lived in a bubble that was fighting. And I was telling someone the other day, like Barstool Sports, I feel like I was fighting when that came out because I have no idea what it is. I mean, now obviously I see it all around.
I just know about the pizza guy.
Yeah, that's what I know.
Yeah.
But like I feel like these things happen when I was fighting, and I'm kind of disconnected. Flow is another perfect example. There's so many things, and kids uploading videos and things to watch, and it's insane
I
the way
got
it is.
him on that one.
Yeah, I want to get all three.
I got you.
That's
Got
the
you.
main
Cool.
shot.
Cool.
Stop telling him what to do, Frank.
No, sorry. Yeah, no. I didn't know. I still don't know what Barstool Sports is, but yeah, you gotta have that. You gotta have blinders on, man.
That's all it was.
And like I tell, I'm helping some young fighters now, in the gym, and like a wrestler, and it's tough. Wrestlers don't always transition to boxing. We're all a little stiff, a little
weird.
bit. It's not an easy thing, and I'm just like, dude, shadow box all the time. I said, bro, I still kind of do. I fucking get boned up. I can't help it. I start shadow boxing. I used to shadow box all the fucking time, all the time. I still do it. I have that habit.
I see
but I
you
used to
doing
even do it like so much more when I was trying to get. You just got to get, got to get obsessed. That's what it is. You want to get good at something, you need to be obsessed about it.
One of the things that I'm like kind of continually fascinated about. So when I lived in PA and then I came to Jersey, and I never moved fully over here. Like I did live here in North Jersey for a period of time, but I would go home on weekends. I would come back. If I would train on like a Monday night and not again till Tuesday night, I'd go home, come back for Tuesday. It was a lot of back and forth, but it was tunnel vision, and New York and New Jersey traffic sucks completely. And going 78 back to PA, I would train, sometimes it was in Philly. I would travel sometimes 3 hours because of the traffic on 76, and or come over here to Jersey and traffic in and out of New York and New Jersey. It's just, it sucks constantly. And I would like travel 3 hours, train for an hour and a half, travel 3 hours, and think nothing about it.
Isn't that crazy?
And you couldn't pay me $1,000 to
do it now. Yeah.
Like
That's crazy.
no way I would do that. And to me, it's like that the fascination with your values evolving over time.
First of all, Charlie, it would cost you $1,000 in gas.
It would cost $1,000. I went to Pittsburgh yesterday to do a speaking gig, and then coming over here tonight.
Crazy. We owe him some money.
But I want to ask you. You mentioned it, but are there things that you think of, and you're probably living through this now, right? Because I'm done, and I've been done for years, so I'm like I'm into it. Are there things you think back on now, and you kind of mentioned it, but you think like, fuck, that's crazy. I don't know if I do that.
I used to go to the city every Monday. I'd go to the city in the morning, early in the morning. I had to be at Phil Nurse's at 9 a.m. and the fucking Monday morning going to the city. That's on in Soho. Like, dude, I had to leave my house at 6 a.m. to get there by 9. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then I'd train, shower, find somewhere to eat, and then drive Midtown, park at another fucking $40 to go train at Henzo's, and then drive home through traffic. Like, yeah, that was miserable, but you did it. Or go into Philly in these boxing gyms, all that stuff was pretty nuts. But
I remember when I was living in North Jersey, I lived in East Hanover. An AMA Fight Club was in Whippany, 10 minutes away. But I would train so much, either to try to train with you at Henzo's in New York, or out at Almeida's, and then with Mark Henry for a period of time. And I remember waking up on Tuesdays at 5:15, driving an hour, 15, hour 20, train for 60, 90 minutes with Mark, make it over to Ricardo's for sparring at whatever 9:30 or 10, and just like a murderer's row of guys that were there, and then get in the car and drive back to Jersey. And
crazy.
It is crazy.
It's also that young-minded, you know what I mean? Shit you just wouldn't do now because you're older.
Yeah.
I think when you're younger, you're hungry because you got nothing. You
Bro,
know,
nothing. I mean, yes and no. Like, I feel like it's because Jersey is a little bit of a commuter state.
It is.
People drive. That's what we do. Right. A lot of people don't. It's tough, dude. You want to be a fighter in Jersey, you got to fucking really want to be a fighter.
Everybody that comes here
because the weather sucks. Traffic sucks. It's expensive. You know what I mean? Like, there's not one. Now Nick kind of built it. You know, a lot of guys just go to that one spot. But we have guys from North Bergen that drive down.
But everybody that comes here from a different state, Cody being one of them, Corey Anderson who moved here, they all talk about like fucking to be a fighter in New Jersey. Like you got to travel, you got to put miles on. You know what I mean?
And think of like your early fighting. Because I would ask you, it was almost like I got not validation, but I felt better knowing how much shit you were putting in, because I felt like I'm like, oh, am I the only one in the world that's not doing the training? But the driving, it's like, oh my gosh, the driving. And then you would share with me how you were driving here and there and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then in my mind, I think it kind of worked out. Whenever Nick's place came to be, I remember feeling like relief for you, being like, oh, that's so great for him. It's right there.
Yeah. No, honestly, as I got, I mean, I still drive on Mondays and Fridays at Ricardo's, which is like about an hour drive. You know, I still my strength and condition place is a half. Like I still fucking put some miles in, you know. But it's almost like I'm used to it. I gotta. If I have to go drive right down the road, I might drive around and have a coffee, listen to music a little bit.
That's podcast. I was gonna say that's how you get to be a podcast guy, bro. So much time on the road, right?
For sure.
I remember early, before podcasting was a thing, I had an XM radio. I got an XM radio, I think in like 2004 or something like that. Opie and Anthony.
I
love those guys.
That was a podcast, if you think about it.
Basically, it was. Yeah. But the shit they said would never fly now. They got away with so much shit back then.
I think
the parodies that they would do.
It would work on a podcast. Now it wouldn't work on radio.
It would never be on mainstream.
You're right, man.
No way.
The amount of like, one, I remember there was one, it had to do with a dude, it's pretty nasty, but putting his ball sack in a box of bees and then letting the bees sting him, and like whoever could withstand it the most. Yeah. It was like crazy.
I've done that show a bunch of times.
You've done the bees?
Actually, yeah. Not the bee thing. Mine is just swollen like naturally. No, because who's the comedian?
Jim Norton.
Yeah, Norton. So I went on a couple of times. One time I had to punch him.
Really?
Another time I choked him. Shit.
You were on shit. I never did.
I got so much inspiration from those guys. Obviously Rogan, but it's funny also. Again, like figuring out what the hell you're gonna do after you're done fighting. You got to figure it out. You got to do something and kind of match your skills with what you like to do, and a little bit of a story that you have or a big story that you have. But I took so much, I still do take inspiration from those guys, from Rogan, from just different bits and pieces. They kind of put you on a path.
Are they still on? Are they on like Sirius now?
No. Well, no. What's his name? I think Anthony, right? Anthony's Opie. Anthony got beef.
Yeah.
Oh, they really?
There was like a lot of drama that went on. So Jim Norton and Sam Roberts still have a show on Sirius called Jim and Sam, and then Opie and Anthony split. I think Anthony has his own thing. Opie.
Anthony to me was the funnier one, man. He was Anthony.
And Cumia, right?
Yeah. Bro, he could do all the voices.
Yeah. He's been on Rogan's quite a bit.
Yeah, he was good, man. He was so good. Opie was kind of the one that he was more the level-headed guy that pulled it all together. But Anthony had the range, bro. He was hysterical.
Bro, Jim Norton, he's pretty raunchy, bro. So the stuff he says is crazy.
Yeah, it is.
He is so early. So this was probably I may have been teaching, so it might have been like 05, 06, 07, if not 08, something a long time ago. He wrote a couple books.
Jim Norton did?
Yeah.
Really?
And they were, it's a comedian, but Jim Brewer, his book is awesome. Steve Martin wrote a book, Born and Standing Up. It's awesome. These comedians write books, and they're really good. Funny, but also kind of life lesson type stuff. But his is not life lesson type stuff. His is just nasty stories.
He's Brunswick, right? I think he's from East Brunswick.
Pretty sure, yeah.
He's pretty sexually out there, isn't he?
He is pretty sexually out there.
The shit he says is fucking crazy, bro.
I know, and he actually lives it, right?
Yeah,
the life he lives?
100%.
That's crazy.
He picks up trannies and shit.
Yeah.
He says. Yeah.
That's another, you're right.
Yeah. It's I'm sorry, Roger. I'm sorry.
That's another.
I know. The first time I ever heard the term "cuckold" was from him, and I was like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah.
I googled it. I was like, "That's a thing."
So I'm pretty sure it's cuckold. There's like a lineage of that word, I think, that comes from birds.
From birds?
Yeah, it's like a maybe it's a cuckold bird or it's something, but it's really weird. But there's like a real history to that. Yeah,
Roger never knew what he was. Now he knows.
I found my home. Found my calling.
That was on the subject of comedians. You know, when COVID hit and everything was shut down and people couldn't do what they did anymore, I became really interested in comedians.
I've always loved stand up, and then I've always, as a kid, I fucking Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence, Jamie Foxx. Like watching those, I love who's the older guy? Fuck,
Bernie.
Not political. He's a ponytail.
Oh yeah,
George Carlin.
Yeah.
Like, I remember watching.
Best.
He always had a special every year on HBO. I remember watching that always. Like I was always into that, and to me, like to be a comedian, you're like that's like the most bravado thing you can do.
It's crazy.
To stand up there and get people to control a room like that. It's fucking nuts. I'm doing a comedy show.
You're gonna be
the Emmy roasted.
Yeah.
You know Adam Hunter.
Yeah. You're gonna do comedy.
MMA Comedy Jam. Yeah, I'm doing it next week. Next week.
Like, have you written it?
I did. I have only a 5-minute set. Only 5 minutes.
Still.
But
I give this guy mad props for doing that.
Because it scares me. That's why. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know. But I had to write it out, all that stuff. But it's fuck. I can't imagine, dude. 5 minutes. I'm starting to memorize it now, and I got it down a little bit. I can't imagine doing. I mean, a 15 minutes, never mind an hour. These guys do it hours.
But you know that you've spoken like an audience, corporate, or different
yeah. I spoke to many different things.
So like you just tell stories.
I do, yeah, for the most part.
But,
yeah.
I feel like like when you're I remember the first speaking gig I did. I used note cards, right? And I thought like I can only have 3 note cards, and it was like. Now I kind of laugh at that thought, but I feel like comedians, like like an actor, I would imagine, just gets into it to a point where it's them telling a story. Like they're not remembering a thing; they are that thing, and they're telling that thing. Just like you would tell a story about fighting this guy or that guy, but that's like it takes extra
stuff.
balls,
But what I did with the comedy stuff, which I like, this guy Adam Hunter helped me, and he's like, start with something real. And then you can spin into comedy things. That's easy to remember because it's something that really happened to me, so that helps.
Is that going to be on video anywhere?
It'll be on Fight Pass.
Nice.
It'll be on Fight Pass, yeah.
I give Frankie
that's a lot, man.
Such accolades for this.
You're not going to have to hear what I'm saying about you.
I don't care. I don't care.
The worst
I don't care, pal. Use me for fodder.
It really does put you in front of it. Like a comedian would say the fighting is crazy.
Right, of course.
But
like even actors are always like, oh my god, I'm like, dude, I don't know, be an actor and comedian, that's just it's tough. Like to be a good one. I'm not saying, I mean, I acted and I'm gonna do comedian. Like I'm saying to be a good one's hard. you know what I'm saying?
To me, stand up is above all. It's beyond acting. Acting, I would think, is a some memorization. Obviously, you get to be the character, you become one with the character, but to stand there, I mean, you're on a film set and there are people watching you, but they're all professionals that are there to help you. You're up in front of a bunch of people that paid money. They want you to make them laugh. Yeah. That's a different animal. You know what I mean? So
What for you, Roger? What was I don't know a thing that sticks out at you, or a weird or crazy thing like you mentioned when we met? And I remember being at Gianni's house and Snooki was there, and they would have the MTV would be in the garage and it would all be set up and. We'd be sitting there, and in my mind, I'm thinking this is the most bizarre thing that I've ever been a part of. It's so weird because it takes this thing, MTV, and puts it like in my friend's garage,
right.
and then wait, that's him,
right?
And but what for you was I don't know, I don't know your story before that, but for you, what was I don't know weird or crazy or new about that when it hit?
There was never a period of time from the time it began till my last time I ever did it where it ever became comfortable. It was never comfortable. It was always awkward and weird and not normal at all. It never became my norm for me. You know what I mean? I'm very much like you. I'm a kid from a very small town in Maine. I grew up, there was 800 people in my hometown in Maine. Never in a million years did I ever think I'd be on TV. And you got to remember, it's not like I tried out for it or auditioned for it, or it just happened naturally. A pretty girl walked in a club, 15 years ago, and I happened to be there, and she was part of this crazy madness. Well, actually, that's not even true. When I met her, it was before it was even sold. Nobody had even bought it yet. It was just a pilot, that they were filming. So but there was a lot of cameras, and actually, the first time I met her, there was like 2 cameras, and then it became, it became like 40 cameras. It became madness. But I think the only thing that made me like comfortable with it at all was I got to be friends with the people behind the camera, and the producers were cool, and I still talk to a bunch of them. You know what I mean? So it put you at ease a little bit, but then you always had to keep in mind, in the back of your mind, you always had they were ready to pounce on a fucking car pile up. That's what they capitalize on. They don't like. If you're holding hands, and riding Ferris wheels, and that ain't gonna make TV. They want a fucking car crash, and they want a bad one. You know what I mean? So you had to keep that in mind, and you give up a large portion of your personal life and your privacy, and they don't really make that explicitly clear. You sign a big form. You did. We all sign them. You don't know what the fuck you're signing. You're like, I'm gonna be on TV. You fucking sign. You are. They've got you by the balls once you sign that. So no regrets. I would not have the 2 beautiful children I have had I not lived through that experience. And, you can always pull something back. I think it made me more comfortable with, exactly what we're talking about, being uncomfortable. That wasn't a comfortable position for me at all. And I like to think in life, that's why I give this guy a lot of props. I like to think in life that you grab the bull by the horns and you do those things that intimidate you and that are scary to you. And that was really scary to me, especially in the beginning, man. I remember having this, and Frankie's always like, what is an anxiety attack? What is it? Well, if there was ever one, and I ever had one, I definitely had one this day. It was the first time I met my ex's dad. And it was like end of season party. It was like season 1. It was like the season that blew up. No, season 2. Season 2 was in my season 3. It was like they had blown up. They were like top of the world, and they had this party at a hotel. And I had to go in. You have to get frisked by the police when you walk in. You have to sign all these waivers, and then you sit in a room being waited to called up to this rooftop party. And her dad was there, but I wasn't allowed to talk to him, bro. And it was like 100-degree day.
Why were you allowed to talk to him?
Because they wanted they wanted captured, and they weren't filming that part. All the cameras were up on the rooftop, so you're just sitting down there waiting to be like called up, and then like hours are going by, and I had this full on.
That was your favorite part?
Fucking panic attack. Favorite part? What do you mean?
When you're getting frisked by the cops?
I had this full on panic attack, and my shirt, you could have wrung the water out of it, bro. And now I'm like, oh my god. Then you know what's going on, so then you freak out more. You're like, I'm soaked, my shirt's soaked through, everybody's gonna see it, freaking out. Well, anyway, luckily they put us in a room that had air conditioning finally, and I sat on the air conditioner for like an hour, and then, I always feel like once the ball gets rolling, it gets a little easier, but that fucking waiting, that anxiety, it just, so no regrets, man. You can look at any scenario in any life setting. Obviously, we had some negative shit that happened in our relationship, but I try to look at it from the positive aspects, and of course, you're a dad now, right?
Yeah.
My children are everything to me, and I would not have them had I not gone through all that, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
No regrets, man.
Right? But like getting your ass, I'm saying because I know, right? Getting your ass kicked on TV is a really humbling thing, but it's also freeing because it puts you, it's like you saw me at my worst, you saw me at my most embarrassing. No, all right, nothing to hide, so let's just move forward. Whereas most people don't have that opportunity because they got to hide stuff all the time, and they got to feel they got to put on airs. But when you act like you're tough and then you get your butt kicked, I got nothing to say.
I just deal with it like I always say I don't want to go to the barbershop after I lose a fight. But honestly, I just say, all right, if someone's gonna say something, I'll smack the shit out of that person. Yeah. That's how I deal with it mentally.
Yeah.
Obviously it's not gonna come to that, but that's how
nobody on you guys' level when you still may be doing it, but you're Frank, you've walked away from it, Charlie, but nobody that is on your level would ever make fun of you. It's it takes such
on your
balls.
level, but it would be some scumbag.
Some scumbag will do it, right? Well, you shouldn't care about them.
Oh, I want to smash them.
It takes time though to not care about them.
What is that saying? Don't care about the opinions of sheep. Lions don't care about the opinions of sheep or something like that.
It's easier said than done, but with practice, you would know too. I'm sure you took a lot of shit for whatever different stuff.
Yeah,
he's a big comment guy.
Comment guy? Right. No, I used to be. You're right. You're right.
You're listening. You're stopping looking at the comments. He lets what people say get to
No.
A little bit.
I thought you meant me commenting back, which I never do anymore. But reading them, I don't think so much anymore, really, bro. I don't
care.
It's almost.
I think once it got to the line where people were like people obviously either like me or don't like me and say heinous, horrible things. Whatever. I'm like I said, I'm a First Amendment guy. I'll support their right to do that. But when they started saying shit about my kids, if you can eat that and stay on the internet, you're good. You know what I mean? And I ate it and stayed on the internet. I didn't even fire back at them. I was like, whatever.
Just don't look.
Yeah.
Best you can. It's hard. I don't know.
A simple like, it sounds kind of stupid and elementary, but a simple thing for me, like how to get through it takes time. But you could take like the most perfect pizza in the world and someone's going to hate it.
Yeah.
Right,
and when
right,
you think of that, it's like, oh, well, then I'm fine.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good way to put it.
Pretty
It's
simple.
like you see this smoking hot girl. You're like, somewhere around the world, someone's sick of her shit.
Yeah.
You told me that.
Yeah.
You told me that, and it resonated. That's a true story.
Yeah.
We were at Xena with the girls, and the girls went to the bathroom, and Frankie and I were just sitting there. We've been friends for 20 years, so this is 12 years ago probably. Sitting there, the girls are in the bathroom, and this smoke show walks by. We're guys, you can't help but to pick your head up and be like. And I caught Frankie's eye, and he saw what I saw, and he just looked at me. He goes, somewhere out there, there's a fella connected to that girl with a whole set of problems that you don't want. I was like, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it.
Roger, you mentioned something earlier that made me laugh. Not even think about fighting. Fighting was certainly that way. It's like I was so whatever. I'm in the UFC. I'll sign whatever. Just put it in front of me. I was on a reality show before that called Pros versus Joes.
That's right.
Yeah.
I used to watch that.
Yeah.
Bro. I used to watch that.
I was teaching Spanish, and I just on a whim, applied for it. Ended up on it.
Did you win?
I did.
Yes.
Yeah. I won my episode, $20,000, and then I won a car. I went back.
Didn't you win with your brother? Too?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
dude.
for
That's
you, man.
fucking awesome.
It was cool. It's on Amazon. It's like $2 for the episode. It's really funny. And so I'm from Central PA, and my wife makes fun of me. So she's from Harrisburg area, and I was born 2-ish hours west of that. And she refers to where I'm from as being from out west because she thinks we talk funny and different, etc. And when I watch that show, I'm like, oh my gosh, I do sound very different. But that contract, man, I would have signed anything just to have the opportunity.
You got to remember with Jersey Shore, most of the people that sign those waivers, they're 3-4 page simple waivers. They're not like they are if you become like a fixture on the show. That's much thicker and deeper. But most people that sign them are fucking hammered at a club. They're handing them out at Karma and
so they're not.
If it said you got to give your first 3 children to MTV, people would have signed it.
Yeah,
Dude, my first manager I signed with, it was a 5-year deal, and he was charging me 33 1/3%.
Wow.
And Chris Ligori, who is the fighter to me, he's 5 pro fights. He fought at UFC. You're signing it? Okay, I'll sign it. I signed. I was making fucking $500 a fight at the time. I was like, dude, I'm digging holes to really make money.
This is before anything really.
Yeah, this is before my first fight.
Oh,
my
wow.
first fight ever. I signed with this guy, and I signed him. I have my first 5 fights outside the UFC, and then I get signed by him, and I had to give this fucking guy. I won a $20,000 Friday night bonus, and I had give this guy 33 1/3% of that.
Oh shit!
That shit.
Yeah.
I never knew this.
I got out of the contract.
Wasn't there another story? Maybe you can't talk about it, but there was a big name fighter that we all know. I don't know if you want to say his name or not. You signed with his management, and that turned into be a little bit of an ordeal to get out of that. It was a woman. The woman.
Yeah.
You got out of that though, right?
I did get out of that. I got out of both of them.
But that was a little bit of a nightmare, wasn't it?
No, it could have been.
Okay.
It could have been a nightmare.
I was gonna say that, man. Like on top of everything else that you have to worry about, on top of everything else that you got going on, you have to worry about that. And not whether it's intentional dishonesty or just happens or whatever. Like the last thing you want to worry about is trusting someone with money, right?
And it's especially in the MMA space, man. Especially in 2005, it was so fucking new. But at least like in football or basketball, there's these guys get picked up by professionals. Like professionals are dealing with their shit. Like it's all been done before for them. Like in 2005, it's never been done for anybody. I was just like, yeah, all right, cool.
I remember, and I don't know if you remember this, and as I get older, I remember things, and I think like, did I really remember that? Did you really say that?
Isn't that weird how memory works?
Yeah,
like
I think you were talking about I think your buddy at that time was representing you to some degree.
Yes.
And I asked something about being a champ, and you said, well, they don't do anything until you defend your belt. Like, meaning even though you're a champ, like to really get clout, you had to start defending it. Then you start to.
As far as pay-per-view points.
Yeah.
It's like you fight for a belt. If you're not the champion, you don't get pay-per-view points. But once you're the champion, you usually get pay-per-view points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I fought in the UFC, I think it was 2009, and then I was out for a little bit to like the end of 2014. So like about 3.5 years in the UFC, but over a 5-year span. And man, I remember the names of people, and I remember like the stuff in the airport. I feel like it's a whole different world now. Like it's elevated since that time to now, meaning like they clean house of the people. They have their own service that does the Performance Institute. Like none of that stuff existed at all.
It's honestly, it's a game changer. It really is. The institute, you go. They have the best PT people in the world. Like the girl there, she works at the Olympic Training Center for so many years. Now she's there. To me, she probably gets more reps at physical therapy than anybody in the world. And she sees men, women, all different types of injuries. The facilities there are sick. Clint. What's his last name? He wrestled at Cornell during our time.
Wattenberg.
Clint Wattenberg. He's my nutritionist.
Yeah.
For nothing, because the UFC he works for the UFCI or PI.
It's not just you that says that, Frankie. Every fighter. I haven't heard one fighter.
Bro, honestly,
if
amazing
accolades.
Say this was 2000. This was around when we started. I mean, of course, I love living home, and that's why I wanted. We built it here, but it would be pretty smart to go out there and live
Cowboy Cerrone did.
Live there, dude.
Drove his RV out there.
His RV is parked in the parking lot.
Parked in the
PI.
parking lot because
PI.
And he said, "I wish this was around. I would have done this every single fight."
So you have strength and conditions covered by the PI. Your diet's covered by the PI. You can go and eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the PI.
You just have to be under contract.
Yeah, physical therapy. You can go every day if you want to make an appointment at the PI. You could bring your coaches, your own. There's no coach. That's one thing you need to get. Your coaches, you could go and train at the gym and everything. It's wild, man.
That's insane. I had no idea. I never talked to anyone about this.
Yeah.
So as long as you're under contract, all that stuff, you just go there and you just do it.
It's like every time I go, like if I'll go out. I went out for a week. I booked training therapy, every day while I was out there.
That's crazy.
Take care of it. Yeah.
It really is funny to think back. Like I use NFL guys just because I think of like leather helmets in the I don't even know 50s, 60s, whatever, playing football. Them looking at today's being like, oh, those guys, they got this done, their thing. I feel like that guy. I remember when I started fighting, there was guys who started, I don't know, in the late 90s or mid 90s who were the kind of OGs then, and then I look now and I'm like, well, this is a whole. I don't even know this language anymore. Like I don't know it.
I feel like that was the era you were talking about, whether you're talking about fighting or football. We go back to like the Tank Abbott eras or whatever. If you want to talk about fighting, those guys were more gritty. Those guys were more, but probably not.
Guys sucked.
No, listen, let me finish. But nowhere near as technically sound and as well put together as fighter. Those guys would get smoked against, Nagano would fucking kill any of those guys.
Honestly, but it's pretty much.
But they were just grit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, probably more so. Those guys. But I mean, every sport though. Go. Every football. Like, listen, the mile keeps getting fucking faster and faster. Right? The marathon keeps getting faster and faster. It's just gonna happen, dude. I seen someone put. It was 1932 Olympics or something like that, and a guy on the pommel horse, and then there was 2012. So this guy goes and lands. 2012, this guy's like, boom, lands. Fucking 80-year difference.
Yeah.
Like how much the human fucking
evolution.
It just keeps
excelled.
going.
You know what I mean? Like,
going.
it's just amazing.
The high jump changing form, the high jump changing form. The mile is a perfect example. Size of guys.
And what's crazy too about that, you see the guy when the first guy, nobody could break the 4-minute mile. Nobody. As soon as one guy did it, fucking everybody started doing it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I've read that example in several books on how there's just like I don't know if it's self-governor theory, something like that. But we just set these limitations, and then someone breaks it. I mean, honestly, on a much smaller, less whatever revolutionary, I never thought of doing anything, and then I saw you do it, and I was like, whoa, he's EWO and I'm EWO.
Yeah,
shit.
That's honestly with Koscheck doing it, fucking Ultimate Fighter Show. I'm like, dude, I see that guy all the time. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this a try.
Yeah, I always give the example of you, and I say like I touched him. I was in a room with him, and that like changed my thinking.
Yeah. It is true, because if not that I'm a mountaineer, but for some reason I'm a little obsessed with watching movies about it. If a peak is unclimbable and somebody climbs it, it seems like then everybody starts climbing it.
Say no, it's
Mount
done.
Everest was
doable.
unclimbable. For the longest time, and finally when it was done, now people climb it. I feel like people climb it for vacation now.
Yeah, and a weird thing with it's kind of deep, but we talked about comedians, talked a little bit about COVID, you being on MTV, the UFC. People ask, you have an image of things and of people, and then of the president, right? And then you realize, like, oh, they're just humans. They're humans in a role, right. And that's it. Like, oh, MTV is actually just a bunch of regular people with cameras, and then they pay a bunch for marketing and advertising, and then it's this thing. Watching documentaries, I remember, Echo Canyon, something at Echo Canyon, and it was about like in the 60s in California, music, etc. And they had these regular, actually these really famous people talking, and I'm listening to what they're saying, and I'm thinking, man, if that weren't so-and-so, I'd be like, what are they talking about? Right. But because they're super famous, I'm like, oh, that's the greatest thing ever. When really it's like, is it? Yeah. Or did we just add that to it?
Right.
And fighting can be similar. I remember meeting Matt Hughes. I was like really starstruck when I met Matt Hughes, and then seeing Chuck Liddell and Tito. Like those two specifically, Chuck and Tito. I remember seeing them and being like, wow, they're big, man. Like they're a lot bigger than I thought they were. But then you hear people talking, and you see like Anderson like all smiley and cheering. You're like, oh, they're regular dudes with like. As parents, they're parents. I remember you said, it was on my show, you were on my show, and you said, yeah, I won a world title, and then I got home on Sunday or Monday, and I was changing my kid's diaper.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reality of it.
It is, just like fucking Tom Brady, bro, goes wins his 7th Super Bowl, he's still fucking dealing with his wife bitching at him, I'm sure. You know what I mean? Like, everybody is.
Yeah.
And I don't know about Tom Brady, but everybody else probably.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, are you still a fan of the sport? Did you watch the fights over the weekend? Big upsets this weekend. I only picked one of those.
What was the big upset?
Well, I mean, I thought Rose was definitely going to win. I really did.
That was
I picked Chandler to win, although it could have gone. I mean, Al Kakui's.
I picked Chandler.
I picked Chandler to win, so I got that one right. And who was the other? Gaethje. I picked Gaethje to win.
What do you think about that, the Gaethje fight?
The fight itself, or not making weight, or what?
Okay, let's go making weight.
I didn't see the fight. I only saw the result of the fight. But making weight, I have a story about Charles Oliveira cutting weight. This was back when he was at 145. And I want to say, I fought, two stories. I fought on, I think, 2 cards with him. One in Toronto, the other might have been Pittsburgh. And in Toronto, I think he got knocked out by Cub Swanson, whichever one it was. It was... still, I feel like to this day, one of the scarier knockouts that I remember seeing. And I had just lost to Kyle Noak, or I was about to lose to Kyle Noak at that time. But he got hit by Cub Swanson, and like he got hit, and then he's like still moving, and then like maybe a delayed second, it hits him, and he takes like 2 steps back, and then he crumbles. And it was like, did he just die? It was so delayed, and it was so weird, but it was so scary. And then another time, it was a different fight. They were cutting weight, and was it Macaco, his coach Macaco, Jorge Patino. They were in the sauna, man, and this was when he was at 45. He was cutting weight so hard, and I remember it looked like he was going to die. Like he couldn't move at all. And they had his face. They had like a wooden kind of box container little barrel. And his face was basically in ice with a towel over his head, sitting in the sauna just to keep his face cool, cutting so much weight. And those 2 memories stick out so much in my mind. But then when I saw him miss weight, it is weird. And maybe you can add some context to this. I was trying to explain it. I don't know if it was to my wife or to someone else. It's not like a wrestling weigh-in where you step on the scale, if weigh-ins are at 7, you don't step on the scale at 655, make weight, step off, stand a foot away, and then step back on. Like you're checking weight. Enlighten me now. You're checking weight in a different room on a different scale.
Absolutely.
Maybe an hour before.
I don't know if you know the story. We always check our weight before on a digital scale. And usually there's someone in the UFC that marks you off that you're good. Okay. So then I go up to the meat scale. All right, you're good. Charles was on weight on the digital scale in the back.
Right.
He goes out on the regular scale. Right. Now he's not on weight. And you can see his face. He's like, what? Yeah. So now, but he had like 40 minutes. Supposed to get an hour, but I think since he waited very late, he has 40 minutes. I don't think I don't know what happened. I'm wondering if he went back and was like, I fucking made weight.
Yeah.
I'm not losing any fucking weight. Screw you guys.
Right.
Because I might have done that too. I don't know. I don't know. I probably would have made weight. because he's missed 5 times in the past.
True.
So that's gotta hold a little bit of weight.
Old suspect.
But yeah, if that's true though, that he was on weight.
Yeah.
But then he's saying stuff. I made weight Thursday night. I made weight. How many times do you hear that? I was on weight.
Yeah.
I just had 1 ice cube. Nah, motherfucker. I'll never forget, dude. We were wrestling. I don't remember what tournament. It might have been a lie. We were at some fucking motel, like Stab You and Run fucking motel on the side of like the highway in PA. And I'm with Lou Russo. He's our 25-pounder from Long Island, and I could have sworn them ghetto hotels where like the sink's on the outside but the bathroom's on the in the room. So the sink's on the outside. I could have sworn, I'm fucking sleeping. Could have sworn I heard like sucking down the water from the fucking faucet. In the morning, wakes up, he's like fucking 2 pounds over. Oh, I swear to God, I didn't have nothing. I had nothing. I swear to God. I'm like, dude, I heard you sucking down the fucking faucet.
It doesn't. It doesn't just. You don't just gain weight. It just doesn't happen.
No.
Did you hear Ariel Hawani had a whole podcast on it though? He swears that would never ever happen, and he thinks it was the commission there. Where was that fight?
Arizona.
Yeah, he said if that was in Vegas,
they would have let it go
all day long.
Well,
he's seen it.
They have,
and he gave a bunch of examples.
I know, but now,
of it.
like you look, the way a meat scale works, there's an arrow. It's got to line up with the arrow, but really it can't hit the top, right? So a lot of times when you're close on weight, it's like it'll go to the top very slowly. So what they'll do is when it's 0.5 and it's there, they'll be like, oh, you're good, and they don't even let it. They don't let it go there. You know what I mean? They don't let it hit the top. Like, oh, you're good. You're probably only 0.5 over.
And then, like, kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier, that the commission guy, I don't know what type of person he is. Is he does he like being in that position? Did he realize the ramifications of that? Like, did he think in that moment, oh, this happens all the time?
Or is he a by the book guy? He might just be a fucking by the book guy.
Ariel said he's probably so by the book, but if that was anywhere else, and he gave probably 4 or 5 examples of.
But let's be real. I mean, okay, the whole fuckery with the digital scale, that's messed up. That's probably the UFC's fault, I would say. But if, like, you didn't make weight. Yeah. You didn't make weight. Still didn't make weight.
And I think it was Gagey who maybe posted, and that didn't happen to anyone else. But
I think one other person that did. But I do hear a lot of people were saying they were on weight and they were like a 0.5 heavier on that scale. Yeah. But not championship fights. You could have that pound allowance.
Right. Yeah. Championship fight, you got to be
square. Dead weight. Yeah.
But talking about mindset, like I don't know him personally. I don't know Oliveira personally, but you were a champ, and I know you personally. For him to be able to just do that, and then man, that's like next level. I don't know, mindset or something to be able to realize
deal with that adversity
and not let it mess you up in the fight.
Right. I mean, damn, that fight. You know what? Gaethje's a beast. I mean, if you've seen the fight, he rocked him twice. Charles ended up going to his guard, and Gaethje didn't follow him down because he was nervous. Mm-hmm. I actually watched my fight with Tina wanted to say I watched my fight with Oliveira, and I was like, God, I'm like, in the fight when I think he ended up pulling guard, or I took him down I'm kind of standing above him. I didn't jump in his guard right away. I kicked his leg, and then the ref made him stand up. Because I was saying you got to like. When I heard him though, I hurt Oliveira in the 3rd round. He fell. I jumped in his fucking guard because I'm trying to finish him. I think if Justin maybe said, "Fuck, I'm gonna go for the kill," he might have got it done. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I know, but
it's tough. It's tough.
Does that eat at guys like you?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Do you just think about like what if? I know you do.
Of course, every guy, dude. I'm sure you have it. If what if I'm sure some type of situation, but in fighting, in wrestling, fuck, I wish I didn't do that. Yeah. Dude, I live in that I wish I didn't do world.
Because it's so, especially fighting, like it's so like minuscule, like it's so an inch or a centimeter or something, but it is what it is. Right. And it's funny, we were talking a little bit earlier, but I still train on a regular basis, like strength and conditioning. Like I'll do sprints and I'll lift and do kettlebells, etc. I don't get on the mat much anymore just because of logistics. But I mean, I think I could beat me up. I haven't trained in forever, and I think I today could beat me up when I was training. And I think like that's like good, but also I think it's dangerous because that's what keeps people going.
Well, Ricardo always said something. This is great. It's a good saying. The more I train, the less I think I'm tough, or the less I know. The more I train, the less I think I know. Yeah. Because you know what I mean? Yeah. Because like, dude, you just see. Or how about this? It's like this. you'll understand what I'm saying. You came from wrestling, right? And like, how shot heavy were you when you first started sparring?
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Like that, you're fucking like boom. You're on a dog on a bone. Boom, boom, boom. Then you run into one knee or one uppercut. Now you're like, oh, should I go? I don't know. You know what I mean? So that kind of happens.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah,
you know?
it is super tough, and thinking back to so I came from wrestling, and then I was teaching Spanish, and I was kind of fat and happy. And then when I started training, like I said, initially it was Eddie, and I would train with him, but it was kind of like, I'll say friendly, meaning nobody was like killing me, and they weren't training for whatever I was training. And then I remember training with you and with him and all the other guys at Almeida or at Jim and Dan. Jim's a perfect example. Like, he could give a shit about anything.
Yeah.
Like, he's gonna fight, right?
Yeah.
And I remember so many times just like feeling like my head's a pinball, right? And wrestling or fighting or sparring you, for example, I can't take you down, right? Like, it's hard to take you down.
Right.
But so then I got to stand up and fight, and you're so much better on your feet, or Eddie's so much better on the feet. Like, talk about like putting you in front of, like we were talking about TV, being in front of like your weaknesses or whatever. But man, fight, it's so scary. Like, it's so freaking scary to be sparring you, or to be sparring Eddie, or to be sparring Jim or Dan. And Dan Miller, perfect example. Like, he's bigger than me, stronger than me. I can't take him down. He's better at kicking. He's better at punching. And then you just got to fight.
Yeah.
And it's really symbolic and preparatory for like outside of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
But doesn't that when you walk away from those, because a lot of fighters say sparring is like tougher than fighting sometimes, you know what I mean? So when you fight those tough guys like Dan or whatever, and then you get in there in a fight, it's got to build. You got to have confidence. Like, I've already got my ass kicked. Like, what is this guy gonna do to me that he didn't? You know?
Yeah, but see, I never really, I never said that, and I don't subscribe to that. The fight is much worse than the training, because they're not trying to kill me. Like, I'm your friend, right? I'm your kind of teammate. You're not trying to knock me out. Most guys who train with you are not trying to do that. In the actual fight, it's like another level. It's like a pro,
it's just a different speed.
It is.
Like, even if I'm in a gym, like, say, me and you know each other, so we always, and I'm not a scumbag training partner, neither are you. But sometimes you go to places where there are scumbags, and even like, you don't know a guy, it's still not the same speed as a fight.
Right. It's not.
There ain't money on the line.
No.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it certainly helps to know, okay, I train with Frankie, I train with Eddie, I train with Jim and Dan, I train at Henzo's. Like, it helps to know that stuff. But like you said, the speed, even the sound, and the like tactile feeling in a fight is much different than it is in the gym. Do you remember? I don't know if you. I mean, I know you. There's been different guys who have come and trained with you since I've been out of it. But like when Khabib and Adlon and a couple other Russian guys came to the U.S., they were in Jersey, and like we would spar. Jamie Varner was at our gym at that time, and like it got to the point where on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I was like, felt like I was getting ready to fight, because nobody cared. There was not necessarily like a team rapport at that time, which is good, but then it's like, this is my home gym, man, and I'm trying to come and train, and I feel like I'm trying to like not get knocked out today. And it was tough for a long time, because there was a language barrier, there's a culture barrier. Those guys were absolute killers. So it's tough. Like that specific period of time, I liken to a fight, because I felt like it was.
I always like I tell guys now, like it's a couple guys I'm trying to help out a little bit, like the closest thing to a fight is going to a boxing gym.
Yeah.
In the hood, if you could pick one,
Yeah.
you know, and you go in there, you don't know anybody, everybody's mad dogging you. You go in there, people are talking mad shit.
That's
you
a
know?
perfect
He's
example.
not fast. Knock him out. He's not fast. And your coach is yelling. Mark's talking, 1, 2, 3, telling me shit. People are screaming. That's the closest thing to a fucking fight.
Yeah,
you know, and like not animosity, the just that angst you have, like when you're warming up and everyone's fucking mad dogging you. But everything, put in a good show afterwards. Everyone's like, go work, bro. Go work. Go work. You walk out. Yeah, that's how it works.
So I had a couple examples of that going to different gyms, maybe at Team Quest. Like, you go to these different gyms, and there's these guys there who I couldn't believe. Like, you're not a superstar. You're like, and for whatever reason, they just didn't have that break or that right relationship or that right timing or whatever. And you go to those gyms, it's very similar to what you're saying, man, because you have a tag of being a UFC guy and maybe being on TV. You know, at Henzo's, we weren't sparring, but it was jiu-jitsu, and I'm rolling with like these black belts that are like unbelievable, that are absolute killers. And you know, it wasn't sparring, it was jiu-jitsu, but still, it's like
you get nervous.
It's insane, yeah. There's such a high level of competition, and when you put on gloves and you're sparring, especially with little glove sparring with guys you don't know in a strange place, and it gets pretty overwhelming.
It does.
How about you, Frankie? Do you think 2022 Frankie could kick the ass of the Gray Maynard Frankie, the BJ Penn belt winner, Frank? Do you think you?
Yeah, I think I'm evolved. I don't know if I can throw the overhand like I used to be able to with the shoulder feeling the way it is, but yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a better fighter than I was in 55. You know, there's so much more knowledge. Just fucking 10 years of knowledge.
Ring knowledge, yeah.
That's what I like to do. I also like it, and again, I say that out loud, but you know, I don't know if I really could kick my own ass, but I think like as a person. Like you're calmer as a person, maybe you are. I'm speaking from my vantage. Like I feel like I'm calmer. I feel like I'm more knowledgeable. I feel like I'm just like more relaxed. Like so for that alone, even though my like fight technique might be kind of like at a standstill because I haven't trained in forever, I feel like that side of me, like the me side of me, is more evolved and calmer and more prepared to fight. I think than I was.
Yeah, I mean just. Like I say, experience is probably the best thing you can have, and the only way you can get it is by timing.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
and it's just kind of that's what's it's a little crazy about fighting. I mean, football a little bit, not as much because like you said, they can't hit as hard. But like Tom Brady, right? He's 43, but bro, he's probably so much. He has how much more knowledge does he have? A guy that just came to the league. And like as long as he can still play at that speed, bro, he's so much better now. Like in fighting, it's like I'm 15 years in the UFC. It's like my knowledge is crazy, so much more than it was when I first walked in. But like I got 15 years on my body. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's kind of like if you're hitting at
that knowledge in the old body.
In the young body.
Right,
it'd be crazy. Yeah.
Right. I recently read on my podcast I read a new book every week and then I give like highlights of that book. But I recently read his book, the TB12 Method. Oh yeah. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with your values or things that you would have done then that you can't do now. Like for example, I have 2 small kids and I live right outside of Hershey, and my kids are doing like activities, and I'm going to family reunions and parties and Christmases and like Easter, et cetera, et cetera. So there's elements in my life that aren't conducive to never eating junk, or there's elements in my life that just, it's not conducive to being a world champion because that's not my focal point, my priority. When you read his book, and I don't know Tom Brady personally, but you read that book, like he's still in that mindset. Like he said, we plan our family vacations around, what gym equipment, what weights, what food, like he's still that guy, and it is a choice that you make as a person.
But he don't plan it. He has someone plan.
Well,
but enough money.
But it wasn't always that way.
No, right. Yeah, he had to build that
The Rock,
that
too,
routine.
Yeah,
everywhere The Rock goes, his own gym is set up.
He has like a trailer.
He brings it with him.
Yeah.
No, I think it's like one of those metal frame, tarped over buildings with AC units yeah.
It's funny how you look. How you see that you mentioned The Rock or Tom Brady, or I mean, there's people that look at you, Frankie, and think, man, he's this and he has that, etc. But you didn't start there. Like,
yeah, no, for sure.
It's a long way in the making.
Absolutely, man. And it's a fun fucking ride, man. Like you got to be happy that you did what you did, right?
I remember. So a couple things that stick out in my mind from, like, you and Ligori were super instrumental in my life. And I remember a couple things like that you said and he said to me early on. And when you hear other people's stories, you hear them tell like moments that happened, that someone told them something and they remembered it forever. Lessons, comedians have all these lessons from guys that go in front of them. But I remember one time, 2 things from Ligori. I used to just keep my gear in my back of my car, in my trunk, right? So, because literally I never knew when I'd see you or come across you guys. And I don't know if we were at Rutgers or something, and the idea came up of, well, let's get a work on it. And I said, all right, I got to get my stuff in my trunk. And he was like, that's it, man. Like, he pointed that out as like, yes, that's how you do it. You keep the stuff with you. You're ready to go all the time. And then I remember I was offered a contract at Bellator literally in my mind, in my memory, the night before I signed to the UFC.
Oh, wow.
So I was offered to get in. It wasn't their first tournament, I think, was 175 grand. I think year number 2 was 100 grand. But the contract itself was not a good contract. Like if you didn't win that 100 grand, it was not good.
Right.
And my brother was working with someone, they got me in and then ended up turning it down. And they were pretty pissed about it because there was a lot of work that went into getting it, and then I turned it down. And then I think it was literally the next day, Mike called me that I got signed to the UFC. And I remember like in that interim, like before that happened, I was talking to Ligori and I was sitting at my kitchen table when I was living in Stroudsburg, and he was like, man, just don't worry about it. Keep doing what you're doing and you're going to get there. And I remember thinking like, he's so confident in me, but I'm not even that, like, how does he know that I'm going to get there? But you hear something from someone else and then it kind of clicks and you're like, yeah, if I keep doing this, I'm going to get there. And then I remember when I was in Pittsburgh and I ended up fighting Rick Story. And I don't know if you remember this conversation, but I remember, so I was supposed to fight Nate Marquardt. Yeah. Nate got popped for something. TJ Grant, whom I was supposed to fight, whom I'm good friends with today, which is a weird circle of life, he didn't show up. He got sick, so they threw me in to fight Rick Story. And I remember calling you. I called Mark, asked him what he thought about taking the fight. Henry,
you were a big underdog in there, right?
Like ginormous. Yeah. Like who's this guy? Right, you know? And I think I just bumped the wire. But I remember calling you and talking to you. I think it was after the fight, and I can't remember if you said believe the hype or don't believe the hype.
Oh, I said fucking believe the hype.
Yeah, that's it.
Believe the hype.
That's what I thought you said. And that stuck in my brain. Like keeping a balance. Like it's a nuance. Like don't get too far ahead of yourself, but believe it. Like don't limit yourself.
I said they say don't believe the hype. I said no, believe the fucking hype.
Yeah.
You know?
And
are there fighters in your mind that overly believe in their? There's a Conor McGregor one. I mean, there's no guy that believes in himself more than him, but he's taking a bunch of losses too. Is there over believing?
He would have never got where he was if he didn't have that.
That is true.
You know
that is true. There is true.
And I think there's fighters. I won't say names. But I think there's fighters out there that are not that talented, but they just fucking believe, man, and they find a way to win. They're not athletic. They're not the most talented, skillful fighter, but they just believe so fucking much.
Yeah, I think McGregor's if you think of alchemy, right, or you think of like this perfect mix of stuff, I think he is. I don't know how much further he's going to go, but yeah, none of that happened without this insane belief in yourself. Right. And especially when fighting, because you just can't fake it. You know, you can post stuff and you can say stuff, but then you get your ass kicked and it's like, all right, what now?
Yeah, he won enough times to get where he got.
Yeah, I agree. Now there's a lot of talk about him and Chandler. What do you think?
I'm thinking Chandler. Yeah. I just don't think, Conor hasn't won a fight in a long time.
I think that
I might pick Conor for that one because it plays into his fight style. They're both stand up bangers. Conor's got that. You know, obviously against Khabib, I would have never picked Conor to win that fight, even though
Chandler could wrestle the fuck out of Conor if he wanted to. But I don't know if he would.
I don't think he would either.
I don't know if he would.
For better or worse, I don't think he would.
Yeah.
Chad Mendez was supposed to wrestle the shit out of him. He got up every time. He did, but he got up every time.
Chad Mendez was having a fucking heart attack.
Yeah.
You know, if he was in shape, I would have smashed that dude.
Hey, what do you think? So I have this, like, I don't know, my experience as a wrestler, right? It's so, like we were saying earlier, it's just so hard. It's so not fun. Think of Christmas break at Clarion. Like, it's the worst thing in the world. It's so hard. And then after the season, people get all gung-ho, right? They're like, yeah, let's train. It's like,
wait, worst thing in the world because you go home and you can't enjoy.
It's just miserable.
Yeah,
with your family, right?
Nobody's on campus.
Nobody's on campus. We're the only people there. There's a basketball team, maybe. And they don't even work out, like, really. You know? And fucking, it was like Transylvania. Right? Transylvania, but no sun ever. Cold as fuck, snowy all the time.
Dark. You got to make weight. Yeah. Calves empty.
That's miserable, man.
Boring.
That is miserable.
And then, but in the after season, there's this like rejuvenation. Like, I'm in the weight room, I'm gonna train. I feel, and you're like, why didn't you do? Where were you like 2 months ago, a month ago?
Wow.
I think that with what Conor's doing, where he's getting all beefy, right? And I'm me, so you could say like, shut up, man. Like, he's Conor, okay? But I don't understand the idea of getting so bulky and strong to then cut weight again.
I think he's gonna go 70. He's gonna go 70. He's not going down to 55.
That's the talk between him and Chandler.
Nah, he's not gonna. I don't think. I don't think he's gonna go down to 55. I think because he's trying to fight. I think he's trying. him and AD should fight. That's probably
for money, for the big money. Yeah. It was going to be a huge, because they're both such popular guys. But I mean, Nate hasn't really done a lot lately. So
it's either Conor hasn't won it. When's Conor? Conor's won one fight since. Wait, what did someone say? He's won one. He hasn't won a fight since.
Correct, but
before Trump was president.
That is correct. That is correct. But Conor can fight when Conor wants to fight too, because he's such a big draw. He can name the time he wants to fight.
Yeah, but every fight he's fought, he's lost.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, except Cowboy. That's the only fight.
Right.
But without conditioning at 55, I don't understand how there's going to be conditioning at 70.
Oh yeah, no. Well, I don't think some guys just that's their kryptonite. You know, they're as long as they're in the driver's seat, they're doing good. But as soon as that fucking gas meter drops a little bit low, it's like it's over.
Did you ever have any fights where you in your brain were like, oh shit, I'm not feeling this?
I think one time, my first fight with Tyson, because I took the fight on 4 weeks' notice. I had a sinus infection for 2 of those weeks. I was the sickest I've ever been. And like that fight, I was just not. I just wasn't in shape, but I toughed it out. I was super tired. I remember walking back to the locker room. I threw up because I thought I threw up from a concussion, but it's because I was fucking so out of shape. And then when I fought Gray the first time, it was in Broomfield, Colorado, which is like 9,000 feet. And I didn't go. I went out there Tuesday for a Saturday fight because I was like, fuck that, it's going to bother me. And I don't know if it did. I mean, it's my first fight I lost. He took me down a couple times, so that could have been it, you know. But those are the only times where I was like, I had to, that was a push.
And in your brain, I like picking the brain of like really good fighters. Did you ever, before the fight, have any sort of doubt in your mind? Or
about
were you
conditioning?
No, well, maybe conditioning, but about the fight in general.
Always. Every fight. There's always doubt. I think, I'm always scared to lose. You know what I mean? Like, I'm never, that's what I say. Like, are you scared? Yeah, I'm scared, but I'm not scared to get hurt. Not that I don't care about getting hurt, but I don't think about that. I don't think about getting hurt. I just think about losing. I don't want to lose, And that's kind of bad. I think it's almost bad to think like that, but it keeps you fast. It keeps you sharp, too. It's like, dude, I don't want to lose that bad, then I'm going to make sure I do everything right. I'm going to focus right.
In the loneliest, so I have a connection to you just because you were like really big early in my career. But whenever I would see you lose and like standing there, right? Like you put out so much work, and it's for any fighter, right? But I'm talking about you because I watch it. I'm like, and then I see you standing there. Everyone does, right? And you're like, I know because I've gotten my ass kicked, and like it sucks that like, oh man, I know how he feels. I get it. It's terrible. How are you at like either rebounding or flushing it out of you and moving forward? So like you get knocked out Saturday night, Sunday you fly home, Monday morning you wake up.
Yeah, I'm not good, bro. It takes me a while. I'm not good for a while. I get over it. I do, but it takes a little bit.
Like a week, 2 weeks.
A week.
He's not a guy that talks about it. But if you know him, him well. He wears it.
I'm very like I'm just in a bad fucking mood, for like a week. Then it goes away. It does go away,
Yeah.
But it's listen. You shouldn't be good at losing. I think.
Yeah.
I think it should bother you a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, if I didn't put everything that's my thing is whenever I prepare. Like, if you beat me in a fight, you fucking beat me because I fucking prepared for your ass. I was ready to fight. At every fight I've been in, and it's like I do everything right. I eat right. I sleep right. I mean, I fucking everything. Yeah. So then when something doesn't work, it's like, dude, it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But that's life.
I remember so many nights. Like you lose, and then like you go to bed, and you wake up in the middle of the night, and you're like, oh shit. Because like you forget for a split second, and then you remember it.
Yeah. I remember you saying, Frank, I guess it was Cheeto, you saying, and I never heard you talk like that before, because everybody loves fucking Frankie. Everybody around here, especially his hometown, fucking loves this guy. And he was like, I don't even want to go out. He's like, I'm gonna, because that's how I am, but I don't even want to go out. I don't even want to leave my house. And I was like, fuck, man, you hurt for him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so.
Yeah, it's tough, man. And with the next phase of life, I'm deep into it, 6-7 years into it. It's weird interacting, and I understand why former athletes have problems in life, because you go from, literally being around people on the same mission day in and day out, where where in my mind, like you're weird for not like busting your ass day in and day out. What do you mean you're not getting up and doing this, that, the other thing? And then when you're reverse and you're that weird, like it might be in my head, right? But I'm still super disciplined with training. I still like I do sprints like to the point where I feel weird for doing sprints, you know. But it's a weird transition because all you ever know is that thing, and then you don't know that thing, and then you're the only one that's living that thing, and it becomes like you try to place it, right? Like all that aggression and all that, like really you try to find different pockets to deliver it in your post-fighting life, and it's a really weird thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting close, you know, obviously. So but it's like anything, you just got to channel it in the right way, I guess, right? And I think what's going to help me is you got to find something to replace that drive, right? You got to find something to replace it. That's it.
It really is like a habit, you know, just replacing that bad habit with a good habit, like replacing this thing with other thing. And there's plenty of opportunity. Like the thing I like about post-fighting and the thing I like about doing my own thing is it's limitless. Like there's literally no possibilities. I can like succeed or fail, whatever. Right. Like, I can try anything. I can do anything. And I like that limitless possibility because you take all these things you learn along the way and then you apply it to either speaking or podcasting or writing books or who knows what else. You know, that's kind of the mystery or adventure that is post fighting that I don't get anymore from fighting, because it's a weird thing being around all those people on a regular basis and then not, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure.
From the outside looking in, obviously, I'm not an athlete, nor high level athletes like you guys. I'm not an athlete at all. But anyway, the mindset is so strong, you know. And then Frankie, as he just said not that long ago, you know, your body starts, you start getting older, you know, you start getting injured, but the mind doesn't necessarily change. So the mind is always telling you, you know, at least I'm asking really. The mind, I would think, is always saying, no, I'm good. I'm sign me up for another one. I'm ready. How does anybody really know when it's time to walk away? You know what I mean? Like, how do you know? It can't be. It's got to be you. It can't be people telling you to walk away. It has to be you. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like, fuck, I don't know, bro. I don't know. 'Cause I'm going. You know, I watched fucking Cheeto fight 3 weeks ago, and he looks fucking great, bro. He's one of the best fighters in the world, and like, I was right there with the guy. Right. So how you know, it's tough for me to say. I could have easily beat one of the best fighters in the world in my last fight, and it didn't turn out that way. So does that mean walk away? You know, it's just like if I was fucking 26 and that fight happened, I'd be like, all right, fuck, let's get back on the board, you know? Right. But, you know, it's tough. It gets tough after a while, too.
For me, it was just objective. So I lost. I was in the UFC, got out of the UFC, won 4 fights, back in the UFC. I thought, I dropped down a weight class. Took a fight on short notice to Benil Dariush, got choked out quick. I was like, all right, I'll rebound. Get knocked out cold by Danny Castillo. Like, how did that happen? Why'd that happen? And then I get choked out like 6 months later. And in a span of, a year, it went from like back to smash everything to holy smokes, I'm out of a job again. And then it became this objective, like I made up my mind, okay, well, I'll fight on the regional circuit for no less than 5-5. And then it was like 1-1. After 11 fights in the UFC being offered 1,000. And then it was that for another couple months. And then it was like a year, and I was like, maybe I just won't fight anymore. And then it became like my personal feeling of I'm not driving so far to train anymore, and I'm not moving. So it became, and then I remember hearing people just in life say it doesn't make sense to X, Y, or Z, right? And not really understanding what they meant. But when I started saying it doesn't make sense for me to take a fight because I'm going to have to travel to Jersey or Philly multiple times a week, I'm going to spend a lot of money, I'm going to be away from my family, and I could speak and make X dollars, which might be less than fighting, but it's minus all that stuff. It didn't make sense for me to do it anymore. And then that made it, and then I kind of like found that drive and that purpose in this other thing.
Well, can we talk about that? How do you transition into that? Obviously, you got to advocate a little bit if you want to speak, or were you asked to speak and that inspired this new passion in you to publicly speak? Because that's kind of what you're doing now.
Yeah,
you have the podcast too.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a fun / like helpful thing to fighters post, right? So I had enough of a story that I was in the UFC, I had some success in the UFC to use it as a thing, as a placeholder, as a hook. And then couple that with being asked all these questions from being small town PA, and then I wrote a book, and then I learned that people who write books are often speakers, and then I learned of this profession of being a professional speaker. I had no idea that really existed. And then I just started like putting pieces together and would use contacts from, I used to be a teacher, so I would use contacts from having taught. I understand kids. I used to be in a classroom. I have classroom management. I have a cool story. And so I just put all these things together to gradually put together a career post-fighting. And the weirdest part about it, the hardest part for me to understand as an athlete, right, especially as a high school wrestler trying to win a state title, if you're trying to win a national title, or you in your case trying to win a UFC belt, anything less than 100% success rate is like failure. It's like, I lost a match, like this sucks, I should win every match. Trying, right, marketing, cold emailing, cold calling, it's like the opposite. You're succeeding 1 or 2% of the time, and you're failing 98% of the time. Yep. So it took so long still to this day to not take things personally. People don't respond. People don't care. They only care if you hit them at the right time and they need a thing and you are that thing. So for me, it's like understanding like a warm response rate from cool emailing is like 2%. Yep. That means you're
speaking our language here in the podcast world, at least, because that's what we experience, because you do it all, right? You don't hire anybody to do it all.
No, it's everything.
We do it all. So
yeah, and it's but like we talk about The Rock, we talk about Tom Brady, you, Frankie, Roger. I don't know what you do outside of what I know you do here, but
I'm a union guy.
Yeah, it's like, man, you gotta make it work. You gotta make it happen, and nobody cares. Like nobody cares. So so my partner, Dredd, his name is Keith, but I call him Dredd, and he's kind of a nerdy type guy, so it's a fun. We think it's fun. We think it's funny calling him Dredd, but some of the like things we repeat on a daily basis are nobody cares. Nobody cares. Just get it out of your mind that anybody cares, because nobody cares. Another important thing that he would say to me is, if we're deciding like, do we call the show this? Do we call the show that? Do we use this picture? Do we use that picture? Do we blah blah blah? And one of the things he always says is there anything better we can be doing right now? Like, is there a better idea? Is there a better path? Is there a better thing that we can be doing right now? No? Okay, we're going to do this thing. And like trying. I've gotten much more comfortable with like trying things. So a big thing for me is reading books. I love reading books. And so I'm trying to figure out this match of combining UFC fighting, a guy who reads books, used to fight, cool, right? So I have these ideas of the world's toughest book club, or I have the ideas of X, Y, and Z. And like, it makes me sweat, it makes me nervous, like you're doing that comedy thing. But man, fighting has helped, but I just do. And you put out a post and nobody responds, I'm like, all right, that sucks. It's embarrassing, whatever. Okay, that didn't work. And then what can you do? So it's just a lot of trial and error, and
sure.
Like financially speaking, when I left fighting, I thought to myself, if I can make as much fighting as I do teaching, when I left teaching to fight, and my first contract teaching was $30,800. So if I can make as much money fighting as I can teaching, I'm good to go. And I've always like been super careful with how I live. My wife's a teacher, so we live simply, and then I just like kind of gradually improve my business itself, and to the point where, I wish it were bigger and better, et cetera, but like I kind of do what I want when I want.
Yeah,
sure.
That's
value.
That's valueless.
Yeah.
And I when COVID hit, and you already do it, and I'm sure you will do more of it. Speaking and sharing your story, because in your story, like I've had a lot of people, because you feel like a little bit self-indulgent to just share your story and expect that. Roger, you could share your story and like, I don't know if you have before, but people are gonna be like, whoa, like just tell me about it. But someone told me,
to me, it's very uninteresting.
Yeah, and like you're you and you're regular and whatever. But a really smart marketing person said, like, stop trying to make it more. Right. Like, your story is enough, right? Tell it, because there's lessons in that story. So I've had to remind myself, okay, just relax. It is what it is. Spanish teacher, became a fighter, lessons, boom, share it. And then with kids, when COVID hit, so I speak in schools a lot, and I would do some businesses, some schools, and then when COVID hit, I was not like talking to kids at all. And like my wife's a middle school teacher, and you just hear, and you have kids who are, you know, in that age, and man, like just how disconnected they were. And so I zeroed in on school. So now it's I feel comfortable talking to principals. I know what kids are going through. I get their feedback and I build my message off of that. But like you were talking about that comedy, man, standing in front of a auditorium, like 800,000 middle schoolers, to me, I love it, man, because I'm like, boom, I'm gonna get them, I'm gonna connect with them. You know, my wife, for example, like that's I never want to do that ever. Like, you're crazy, but I enjoy it, and it makes you feel. You're talking about replacing the fight. It makes me feel worth, right? Value. Like, hey, I can help someone.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I actually got to introduce him last year at Southern for one of his
very cool,
speeches.
very cool, man.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that yesterday, because I did a presentation over in Pittsburgh yesterday, near Pittsburgh, and the PowerPoint wasn't working, and I was like, if I have to, I'll just do it without. And then I thought to that one, it was out on the field, because it was kind of COVID time, without a PowerPoint, which helps to add emphasis to it, you know, showing cool pictures.
Where was your first public speaking event ever?
The first, what I would consider like what the answer to your question, it was at a wrestling match. So my last fight with UFC was November of 2014, and then I'm nearly certain, it's a memory thing, that I got my walking papers on New Year's Day of 2015. So I was like, all right, I got to do something now. And then I was invited to speak at a wrestling match back home. There was no pay or anything, but I was invited to speak at a wrestling match, and I was terrible. You know, it was like, gives me like cringes, you know, thinking about it.
Sure.
But that was the first one.
That's how you grow, man.
Yeah, exactly. And then I got a paid one at my old high school, and then just keep going and going and going. And this year, the farthest I went, I was in Colorado for an event, and then up in Boston for an event, a bunch in Bergen County here in Jersey, like a bunch. Yeah. I talked to a lot of schools here in Jersey, but it's a cool thing, man. It keeps you young. It keeps your finger on the pulse. I have kids that are growing up, so I'm going to like hopefully understand what they're going through without them having to come out and say it, you know?
Yeah.
So, but it's been certainly gradual.
No, I you know,
I think we need more people like you speaking in schools. To be honest with you, some crazy shit going on in schools right now. So you'd be welcome in my kid's school.
Yeah, it's a lot about adversity. I mean, you know, it helps because people, right? You guys, I feel like we've all been embarrassed on TV, right? And for a kid who thinks like they have to walk around with this tough shell and they can't be made fun of and they have to be, it's like, I mean, I'd like to say that's how it is, but I'm out cold, and that's the way.
Well, now the kids are, I mean, their lives are really lived on social media now, so anybody can get made fun of, basically. You know what I mean? So nobody's protected. You know, it used to be, Frankie, you said it one day. You used to go home and you'd be rid of it until the next day. You had to go back. Now that shit follows you home. Yeah, because everybody has social media. Everybody has a phone. Everybody, you know. It's
tough,
scary,
man. Especially raising kids like that.
Oh man,
in that world.
It is nuts. It is nuts, and they need some good influences in their life, you know. Mm-hmm. And it's good to get the people like that. Would like when you had that talk last year, it was a good message to the kids, and Where can, if anybody wants to book you, or anything, what's your contact information?
So I try to make it as simple as possible. Charlie Spaniard is my all social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. My website is charliespaniard.com. You know, it's simple. COVID forced, if your business is, I was mentioning comedians earlier, if your business is speaking in front of live crowds and then there's no live crowds anywhere, I had to totally revamp, redo, recreate everything that I was doing. But my website was part of that process. But Charlie Spaniard is my website.com. And, I have my podcast. I have a student pod. So I actually have two podcasts, one for students, one for grown-ups.
So you do a podcast for students to listen to?
Yeah. So the Spaniard Show is my podcast. And I would have a kids episode. I call it a kids, and then the number. And then I'd have a books episode where I talk about books, and then I'd have a guest. And then I thought, this is one of those things where I'm saying, like, just, pull the trigger and do. And I thought, man, it'd be a lot easier for me to promote a student podcast only to students when I do these assemblies. So I just create, it's really easy. I don't know what host you use, but really easy on Libsyn to create another podcast. So I just speak directly to students about the things that they're going through based on the feedback I get from kids. So it's called Spaniard School. Kind of teaching all these different lessons from fighting.
Cool.
A lot of it pertains to social and emotional health.
Kids will kids will ask questions. Like, what do you have, like a forum where they can ask questions?
Well, they sent, yes. I mean, it's new, so yes, ideally that's going to be the idea. Right now, I use the feedback that I get from messages. I'll do a school, and maybe I'll get 50 or 100 messages. Them sharing, Instagram sharing. So it really, it gives you a good feel for what's going on in their minds right now.
Sure.
That's cool.
So.
Yeah. We gotta have him sign the board.
Yes, get us signed the surfboard up there, pal.
Nice.
Get all our guests.
This is cool too from a podcasting perspective. Just seeing how you guys have it set up, studio. It's fun to.
It used to be just Frankie's like chill room he'd hang out in, had his trophies and stuff down here, and I don't know if you know the story about how we got started. I passed him on the road one day. I'm a uni guy. Like I told, I passed him on my work truck.
He's a fluffer.
Fluffer. Cuckold. Anyway, and he saw me. I was in my work truck, and he called. And Frankie, if you know him, he doesn't like to ask anybody for anything. It's like that's his awkward. He feels so. The phone rings. It's Frankie, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" He's like, "I just passed you. You ever think about doing a podcast?" That's what he says, but not.
I'm listening to Rogan as he's passing by.
Not with me. Not like, hey, bro. I think just. You ever think about doing a pod? I think he's just talking about me.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, bro. Never.
That's what he said. He's like, nah. I'm like, all right. I'll catch you later, bro. That was it.
That was it for like a year. Like a year went by after that phone call. I remember that call. And Ligori DMs me one day. I love Ligori. Ligori should have a podcast. He says some of the most inspirational shit sometimes. But anyway, he DMs me. He's like, bro, you and Frankie should do a podcast together. You come from totally opposite worlds, different personalities, but you'd be like, it's like the odd couple. You guys would be good at it. And like a light bulb went off. I was like, is that what the fucking guy meant when he called me a year ago?
There was no follow up.
Like we missed out on it.
Because I was like, you ever think about doing podcasts? He's like, nah, never.
We missed out on a whole year when we could have been doing this, but.
And did you know each other? You probably knew of each other, but did you know each other?
I was a Frankie Edgar fan. We have mutual friends. They introduced us 20 years ago. I used to go, before he even really knew me, I'd go to his fights. I've been to Sacramento to watch a fight. I was a Frankie Edgar fan, true and true. And then we just started, we'd be at events together and shit, see each other, and we just kind of started hitting it off.
And then I started teaching MMA at Elite Wrestling, and he would come.
I was like, fuck, a chance to see Frankie, I'm there. So I came over. I trained for a couple of years over there.
I didn't know you were from Maine.
Yeah.
How did you end up down here?
I'll try to give you the short version. My mom is originally from Jersey. My parents were married like 25 years, got divorced. My mom relocated back to Jersey, so I came down to visit. My sister followed my mother shortly after. I think I was like 17. My sister was like 18 when my parents separated. So maybe at like 19 or 20, my sister came to Jersey, and she had a baby. So I came to visit my niece, and I never left. That was in '98. I just came, saw Seaside. My sister took me to Philly one day, took me into New York. I was like, I ain't going back to that little town. So I went back, packed up a U-Haul truck, and a week later I was living in Jersey. And now nobody lives here. It's just me.
Yeah. Now you try to explain to a kid like life trajectory. You couldn't have planned that for
never.
Yeah. No.
How crazy is it? Think about it. Kid, little town. I mean, when I say little town, I mean little town. Like 7 different towns went to my one high school, and there was only 300 kids in the whole high school.
Crazy,
right?
dude.
7 towns, one high school, 350 kids. I think my graduating class was like 54 kids. And that's 7 towns, one high school. So anyway, tiny, and I was a total hillbilly when I moved here. I was a total like redneck. Not really rednecks. We're more like they call us downeasters. The area like lobster fishermen. Flannel shirts, overalls, hardworking crew, but like kind of hillbillies. And I ended up marrying a girl on fucking Jersey Shore. Like, what are the fucking odds of that? You know what I mean? It's crazy.
What a world.
Yeah, it is wild. Yeah, I mean, that is good. The trajectory. Who would think that you'd end up in Jersey?
Yeah, crazy.
Fucking hillbilly
it's just
boy.
Life's all about like timing and being in the right place, the right time, and then capitalizing on things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
luck, right? Or just chance?
And just
chance.
100%.
Yeah. No matter how I ever look at what I've gone through or my past or whatever, I always look at it fondly because my kids are my life, and I wouldn't have my kids if things didn't play out the way they did.
Yeah, it's weird how that perspective shift happens. You know, like, man, I wish I'd have won that fight. Not really, because then I wouldn't have this, and then that wouldn't have that, and then that. You know, it's a weird trickle down.
Because things happen for a reason, they say. I don't know if I like that saying, but it's kind of like an easy way to just, makes anybody feel good. Things happen for a reason. Yeah, but I don't know, but maybe they do.
Yeah.
Maybe they do.
I don't know that I disagree with that, because I kind of agree with your sentiment on that, but there is also only so much you can control. You can't control everything.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
You know what? I've been looking for a piece of gum I took out of my mouth, and I'm sitting on it, and it's all over the couch right now, and it's all over my pants.
On that note, we'll end the episode so Charlie can clean up his gum.
The mystery piece of gum. So whoever sits here next, get an ice cube.
You don't have to sign the board now. You signed it. You left your mark on our couch.
Oh, these are new jeans, too. Oh, man.
All right. Charlie Brenneman, guys. Thank you so much for coming in,
brother.
Blast,
pal. Definitely
appreciate being here.
We got to sign the board if we can get you stuck off the couch.
Just stick your gum on board.